So I am Latin American. My father is from El Salvador, my mom from Honduras, but I am born here.
Nice. What did your home look like?
Very Latin American. Our food was Latin American. Spanish was like the first spoken language in my home. Yeah, it was your traditional Hispanic home.
Okay. When did you first learn about skin color, your first encounter with that?
Skin color? Since I was a young girl, I always had people telling me that I didn't look Hispanic because I was way too white. And a lot of people had like little knowledge, so they don't understand that Latin Americans come in.
Okay, just go again. It's okay. I can edit
Okay,
it.
ask the question again. Just 'cause.
So, when did you learn about skin color and not only in your own life, but the impact it has on the world too?
Okay, so since I was a young girl, I always had you're too white to be Latin American. A lot of people didn't know my race because a lot of people have very few knowledge on Latin American culture and our skin colors. We can go from blue eyes to blonde hair to like very tan to even black. So we have a variety of color, and it has affected today's society, the skin color. Even in the Latin American community, there's still a lot of conflict between the white colored and the black colored being portrayed in the Latin American television. So that is a big conflict that is still being fought for because there's a lot of injustice in that, and a lot of injustice was done in our history because of color.
How do you feel Western culture views you and people who look like you?
Western culture. So again, I don't really look Hispanic to some people. A lot of people, unless they have knowledge of my culture and my ethnicity, they will be like, okay, you're Latin American. But other than that, a lot of people, even in my culture, will be like, oh, how did you learn how to speak Spanish? Wait, what was the question?
How do you feel Western culture views you and people who look like you? Just
me.
your culture.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my culture. Well, it depends. I mean, if you're born here, a lot of people are like, oh my God, yes, you were born here. And then they're like, you're more educated, you don't have an accent, you're not an immigrant. There's such a like bad view on immigrants. And like we come here to take everything, when in reality everything was taken from us, which is completely hilarious. But that's how Western society, unless you're educated and know about the culture and everything, then you tend to be more accepting. But till this day, there's not a lot of people that are accepting.
Yes. We are rolling. So, how do you feel, or do you feel represented in Canada through TV, beauty stores, things like that?
Canadian television, not at all. But because we receive a lot of American like shows, there is a few representation of Latin Americans, but they're very sexualized. Like in a lot of the shows or where Latin Americans are portrayed, they tend to sexualize them or give them a certain look of like immigrant servant and stuff like that. But that is really just American television, not even Canadian, so not represented at all here. Yeah.
That was good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What are common questions or assumptions you get due to the color of your skin, and also when people find out that you have this Latin background?
So again, my skin color, I'm like the white. Actually, there are even whiter than I am. Even people like, again, in my Latin community will question how I know how to speak Spanish. And then I have other people that are like, oh yeah, you're totally Hispanic. There's no one that looks like you that is like Caucasian. I don't think my skin color really does have a negative impact because in Latin American culture, they tend to praise white skin and love white skin, unless you're my family and will tell me to get a tan. But yeah, even they have this saying like cleanse the culture. So a lot of people actually have a negative view if you are darker skin. And they will tell you like, don't marry don't marry the darker skin. You're just gonna ruin the skin color. You're gonna bring what do you call it, like negativity, and it's just not a good thing. So I find it negative because I hate that. I love color, and I've always praised people of color. But yeah, for me, a lot of people either like, they're just like, get a tan, or like, they're like, oh my God, you have white skin. That's so good. Good for you. You came out like the nice color. So yeah.
So you kind of started to answer this, but does color affect your attraction to people?
Like my attraction towards people?
Yeah, because that's a question that I've gotten quite a bit. Are you attracted to white men? Things like that.
Yes,
Like, so
okay.
do you find that a barrier? Do you find that something that you consider when looking for somebody, the color of their skin?
Is it rolling? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No. Actually, I will go from dark to like tan to white ginger hair. Like because my culture is so about skin color that I have tried to like lose that barrier, and I always grew up with the mentality that it's not necessary. Like, why does that even matter? Like, how does the skin color determine you? And like, for me personally, I try to stay away from that. So if I took that image or that type of mentality of, oh, if he's not tan, brown hair, dark eyes, then I can't be with him or whatever. So no, it wouldn't affect me at all. My family, yeah, a little bit. They're kind of like, oh, you like white boys? Or you like black guys? Why black guys? Like, they're very, I don't know if this is too personal,
Okay. No, it's
but
fine.
it's the truth. A lot of the stuff that you have personal are not the same things that are in your household. My family is very like, okay, it's good to marry a Latin American. Like, we don't mind if you marry anyone of different colors, but just to know that there is like a difference in the culture, and it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
So.
Do you worry, again, this is going to be hard because you're whiter.
Yeah.
But do you worry people find you less attractive because of the color of your skin or because of your cultural background?
Because of the color of my skin. In my culture, if you're tan, yeah, pale is not a good color.
Okay.
It's messed up. It's really an individual thing, and because Latin Americans have so many different types of countries, like Mexicans, Salvadorians, Honduras, Panama, Colombia. Everyone has different skin colors and different standards of beauty. So when you come in as a Latin American, it does kind of affect you, because if you come from a more where they idolize the tan, bronzed skin and like curves and all of that, and you don't have that, they tend to, you're not the pretty Latina, or if you're too dark, you're not that. So it does. In certain people, yeah, they will say it. Like, if you were darker, you would be more attractive. I've never had it if you were whiter but yeah.
How does the belief that interracial marriage is wrong affect you?
I think that is so wrong. Like, it angers me if people actually believe that. I think, again, it's such an individual thing. It's hard, it's difficult because of like the cultural difference. And not everyone has the same mentality in that, and there's still so much growing that needs to be done about race and education that is not done, which is so surprising because we live in such an educated country, and yet we focus and emphasize on the history of Caucasians or natives, which is good, but you know, if we were to like talk about every culture and educate everyone, even though we're in Canada, I think we wouldn't have a problem with that. Like, I don't get why anyone else would. And I kind of blame the education. I don't know if that's harsh. People are going to be like, oh!
We are rolling once again. So, can you relate to the majority in the same way you can within your own circle?
I can. I feel like I can connect more with people of different cultures. Most of my friends have always been either Filipino, African American, or just a different culture, and it's just easier because there's that understanding of, you know what, like, we're slightly different. There isn't like yes, embracing the difference, like, we're not gonna be like, oh my god, we're completely, you know, but there's that aspect that you have culture. Not that I'm saying Caucasians or Canadians don't have culture, but a lot of that is missing, and sometimes I am such a person that embraces different cultures, and I love educating myself on different religions, and I can't really do that if everyone's just the same. You would be surprised, some people that you wouldn't expect to have culture do. So that's why I try to just embrace everyone, but I do feel like I can connect more with colored people because there's that connection between being less, or your history, the pain that it carries. And even though, like, in this day we don't carry that same pain, it's still in your history, and to be able to talk about it is so rewarding because you realize that you're in such a beautiful place now because of your ancestors, right? So
Yeah. Okay. How do you feel that the majority culture, white people, have positively affected your life?
Positively, in my education, I know that I said that like
Yeah.
in the racial, but in the fact that I was raised here does change my mentality, and I am so grateful for that. I do realize that there are a lot of mistakes and a lot of issues that Latin American countries need to resolve. I'm not saying that we are perfect and we have everything figured out. If you were to look at our news, our education, the mentality and just the way they function, I personally wouldn't want to be part of it because of how I've been raised here, and the education that I have now. Yeah, like I look at family members that live there and I see the difference in mentality. And sometimes it can be a little bit, it's a very sexualized culture. And the fact that I can be here and I'm not is actually a good thing. And I have to give it to being here for that. Yeah.
Okay. Have you noticed people act a different way around you? So like a change of character. So some of the other girls are saying because they're black, they feel like people try and talk a lot more ghetto to them, or even try and just speak slower in general to them.
Yeah. Okay.
No, go ahead.
No, wait. So because of my culture and my ethnicity, is there on certain people there is. A lot of people will be like, they'll treat me, because my accent doesn't really have it unless I get mad. When I get mad, that's when everyone starts, oh my God, you're so Latina. Oh my God, you have so much sass. And they try to like kind of play up with that role, and they're kind of like imitate me because it's so different. And then they're going to be like, oh, I love you because you have so much sass and so much. And I'm like, that's not really because of, I guess because of how it's portrayed in television, that women tend to be very feisty and everything, so they tend to like it and stuff. Again, yeah, some people that aren't too educated in the culture will act different. And I mean, I don't care. Like, I will educate you in my culture if you're interested. And it doesn't really bother me. I'm used to it. It's been there since I was a young girl, so... Yeah, and sometimes when I can't say words, people make fun of them. But that's okay. I mean, I'm not bothered.
Do you feel that you have ever faced discrimination? You can do that within your own culture as well, I guess.
My own
right? Just in Canada in general, so within your own circle and within the majority circle as well, in your case.
In my culture, actually, I have, again, the whole, you're very white, which, like, to, like, the white culture, I'm actually tan to them. But, yeah, I think, hate to say it, but I think because we live in such a country that has a lot of people from different nationalities, people, like, tend to, like, accept it even though they don't have much knowledge of it, while in my culture, there's... I don't want to like generalize it, but we tend to be very like criticized. I don't know if it's from the circle of people that I've been, but they're very like pick at you. So yeah, I have, because of my body type as well, because either it fits the standard or it doesn't fit the standard of Latin beauty. But yeah.
Okay. First of all, have you ever had people use stereotypes to start conversations with you or small talk? So for the other girls, we brought up things like fried chicken, watermelon, grape soda, weaves, things like that.
Yep.
Do you find that happens to you? And when you do, how do you respond to things like that?
A lot of people will bring like Mexican food, and I'm not Mexican. So it does, because they're like, oh, you're Mexican. Oh, like the most popular countries they will bring up, and then you're just like, no, I'm from here, and they're gonna be like, oh, what part of Mexico is that? And that's how they bring up conversations, and it gets annoying because it makes you realize how uneducated they are, and then you just want to pull out like a map and be like, okay, this is where I'm from. This is the food that there is there. Yeah, it gets annoying. How do I deal with it? I actually, you know what? I love um, when people have knowledge. So I will, if they bring up something that's stereotypical to my culture, I'll just educate them on it. I'll be like, okay, no, this is the history of who we are and where I come from, and then I don't do it in a negative way because I do believe that. There's no point in that. There's just too much hate and anything for me to get all, oh my god, you don't know how to do this, and get all angry. So I try to educate them.
Um, where have you felt most at home since coming to CBC?
With my colored homie.
Is that your answer?
Pretty much.
You want to try again? You can say that. There was just a man talking about it, okay? Where have you felt most at home since coming to CBC?
With my colored people. No, a lot of the intercultural studies students, they're like, oh, I was here and here, and they try to learn, and it's really nice. Or they'll speak to you in Spanish, and you're kind of like, I do speak English, right? There isn't much cultural diversity. I'm used to it though. I live here, so in Abbotsford,
Yeah.
and you're either you just gotta get used to it. Community, I would say with colored, because they understand, and you can have deep conversations of the history, and I love talking about it. So, yeah, and my colored people.
Okay. So, how do you feel when people question where you are from? And what is the proper way to approach that subject?
Like me to them or them to me?
When people...
how they should ask me it? Or?
Yeah, how is a better way of approaching it than what some people do? Sometimes they beat around the bush. Other times they just make an assumption that, yeah, you're Mexican and you're not telling me any different.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm so used to it that I'm not even when people are like, so where are you from? Or I tend to just, I guess, again, because of how I look, not many people get it. Mm-hmm. I get it more when I speak, when I become sassier. They're like, oh yeah, you're Latina. They'll be like, oh, are you Colombian? Are you this? Instead of just being like, so what is your history? What is your back history? Because I am born here. I'm Canadian. There's my my blood and my culture and my history is Latin American, but I am born here, right? So they'll be like, well, when did you come to Canada? I was born here. I'm Canadian. So just asking what my history is, or my ethnicity, that's fine. But it doesn't bother me.
I liked what you were talking about earlier, and I'd love for you to expand on the way that colored women are portrayed in the media, and not only for your own race, but for Black people, Asian people. Would you like to expand a little bit more on that?
Yes. Oh my. I hate how different colored people are portrayed on television. I think it's... if you don't get infuriated by it, in the if you watch any African American movies, the woman is portrayed as super sassy and independent, and she doesn't need a man, and it's kind of okay, why does it always have to revolve around that, or a deadbeat dad and that he can't carry a family, or it's just they always try to take the negative out of a culture, which if we were to do that with a white culture, we would have a ton of people just commenting, boycotting, being so angry. Oh my god, how can you be doing this to us? And then we kind of just deal with it. We kind of just take it. Mexicans are portrayed as Mexican or Latin American. A lot of the time they're always Mexican on TV, and they're always light skinned. It's rare to find a darker skin or a different even I don't know if you know this, but Cubans that are or Puerto Ricans or Dominicans that have darker skin color, they never play a role of Latin American. They play a role of African American, and it doesn't make any sense because how are we going to portray the difference in different colors in my culture, or or like how there's that whole conflict that light skins are better than dark skins in the culture, and TV like portrays it, or when they sexualize certain cultures. Arabic women, a lot of the time they're made to be exotic dancers, or like they're being forced to cover themselves up, and there's more to it. There isn't diversity in it, and it sucks because we're already in 2017 and we should be moving past that, yet we're still stuck on that racism. There's no other word for it, but it is racist.
To add on to that even further, do you feel like people are taking those stereotypical strong independent black women, or those gardener Mexicans, and taking that and just assuming that's what these actual people are like?
Yeah, they do. I know that when I was in back in high school, like we had this like food drive where local farms would give us like vegetables, and then I was carrying a basket, and some guy was like, "Oh wow, you're doing the work of your people," and I was like, I laughed it off, and I was like, you know what? I get it. I'm not even nowhere near. Like, I don't see it as a negative. Like, I'm like, those are the people, like, they pick my food. Like, I'm okay with that. But, yeah, a lot of people will use that. And with the black independent women, a lot of people will be like, if you tend to be more shy or introverted, they'll kind of pick that at you and be like, well, you're not African American because you don't have that independent woman. Again, like, I love Modern Family and Sofia Vergara, but when people, or Vergara, because if you don't have that accent, you're not Hispanic enough, will be like, oh wow, she has such nice boobs and butt, where are yours? And where is your like sassy attitude? And then you're just like, yeah.
Rolling. So, big issues you would like to discuss with the unknowing majority.
Big issues. There are a lot of issues. Just be more accepting, and if people tell you your faults when you're, let's say, being negative towards a culture, like, don't get offended by it. I mean, we've endured it all our lives. You can endure it now, unless you want me to pick up a history book. Obviously, I won't, because a lot of the times when we try to talk to, like, the majority and everything, a lot of the minority tend to get very defensive, and we kind of like, we bring their history, and I know that sometimes that can be negative, but there is a white entitlement, and it sucks, but there is, and without knowing it or understanding it, a lot of people will act upon it, like white privilege. I know a lot of people, if you bring it up, they get offended. But it's a reality, and you gotta bring it to light. And if you can't handle it, well, I'm sorry. There's so much that minorities have handled. I think you can take it. Another thing, appropriation of culture. I feel like you need to educate yourself on that. Yeah, but I don't blame people. I blame social media and the education towards it. I think there has to be more. If you're gonna talk about cultural appropriation, don't just talk about one culture. There are so many, and just by bringing up one culture, you're acting like it doesn't exist in any other culture. And that is the biggest mistake you can do. If you're gonna bring one culture, bring all of them. I'm sorry. It's true though.
That was good.
If you're gonna talk about racism, if you're gonna talk about something, bring all of them, because a lot of when people try to bring them up, they always want to base themselves around one culture. No, I want to see examples of every culture. I want you to grab the textbooks of everyone, and I know it's hard work, but I mean, I've had to evolve in this culture. I would really appreciate if you kind of learned mine.
Okay, so taking on to that, I'll ask you, what do you want the majority culture to know about yourself, your culture, the color of your skin, and stereotypes?
I mean, you know what? Come at me. Honestly, come at me with all the questions, with all the stereotypes. I don't mind it. I honestly, that is how I become stronger. That is how I become more appreciative of my culture. And if you don't have people that are like picking at you or using stereotypes, you'll never be able to educate them. And so a lot of the times that's looked as a negative, but you know what? Again, like, come at me. I will answer everything for you. If I don't know something, I will go and educate myself and have a coffee with you and talk to you about it.
Okay, so, Kat,
Yes.
do you love who you are?
I freaking love who I am. Honestly, when you are in that stage of puberty, when you're in 12 to 13, you go through so many insecurities. And you go through this period of hating yourself, and everyone goes through that, right? But now that I'm like 19 years old, I can say that I love who I am, and just in my culture and who I am as a person. My skin, my family will still tell me to go get a tan, and honestly, I don't need to. I love my color. Like, I've never had a conflict with my color, and honestly, I like everything about me. I like the fact that I don't meet a certain criteria, and that because of that, I am who I am. I am not someone that can be put in a category, and I will fight against being put in a certain category, and I think everyone should.
How did you begin to embrace the minority culture, not having someone who looks like you or not looking like your own people, right?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
How did you begin to embrace the minority culture, loving yourself?
I think through my family and the people that I was surrounded by, because I have been, like, my church is Latin American, and in my church we have Salvadorians, Hondurans, Mexicans, and and Venezuelans, Colombians. I saw the difference between how everyone looked, and what every culture brought to the table, and different foods. And so knowing that we were all different, yet we could stand together because we had the same history, or we could stand together because we had the same language, and the fact that we were still united because of our music, and the culture is slightly different, but a lot of it is pretty similar. The fact that we all had that in common just made me embrace it even more, and made me be more accepting of it. Like, I never saw my culture as a minority, honestly. I think we're awesome. But I get, we are. It is a minority, we are, but I don't, you know what, that's the thing. Do not accept it as a minority. That should be a word that is changed. We are, but we're not. Honestly, we wouldn't have such a beautiful world if we didn't have us. If everyone was one certain type of culture, it would be the most boringest thing ever. So the fact that they consider, or we consider ourselves minority, is one of the biggest mistakes. We're not. I mean, we bring color and we make a rainbow with our, you know.
What is your message to those who do not love themselves and have not embraced being a minority?
Yeah.
So little girls who are trying to become more of the the Western ideal of beauty, and wanting blue eyes, straight hair.
I think, again, the beauty products and all of that make a huge mistake. Like bleaching products and relaxers. Oh, that's another conflict we need to get into. I see beauty in things that are different, and I think everyone should, and there should be an education in our young colored girls of embracing themselves, and that there's a greatness in being different and not having the blue eyes. And because if you study blue eyes, they got some issues. They do. They're like, yeah. And I mean, there's a reason for why you have your skin color. There's a reason why you were born in that culture. And God makes no mistake in creating you, and understanding that if you believe in God or don't, whoever created you did not make a mistake. And accepting that and understanding that there's a reason for why you were born and you were raised in that culture, or you have that skin color. There is a beauty in just that fact. You could, like, there wasn't an issue. God could have created you like that, but he didn't want that for you. And again, with beauty products and all of that, it's not worth it. Your hair is beautiful the way it is. Afros, oh my goodness, if I could have one, I would. I mean, it sucks. And a lot of the times books portray like the beauty with like the blonde hair, the pretty, no. I don't know. I think it's such an independent thing to accept who you are. And it's a journey that you have to go through. And for some, it's going to be harder than others. But there will come a point where you're just going to be confronted with accepting yourself.